It's this area of the body that we really believe are just ready to go all the time. Like there's no maintenance steps to them. There's nothing that can be done to maintenance the feet. And actually, the way that Charlie and I work with the body, and every MAT specialist and all of our colleagues across the nation, it's a huge area of maintenance. And it's a huge area where people feel so much better, stronger, mobile, feeling stable in their feet once we start them on some kind of plan to work on the functionality of the feet.
Welcome to the Exercise is Health podcast, where we're talking about exercise, health, and the interconnectedness of the two. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we will be coming to you every single week from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Exercise is Health podcast. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we are coming to you from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg in Schaumburg, Illinois. Now, at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, we believe your health is your most valuable asset. Your health is one of the biggest influencers of the quality and quantity of time that you have. And while there are many aspects of health, our expertise is exercise. Exercise has been proven time and again to not only improve your health, but also increase your longevity and improve your quality of life. And if you are wanting to know how to use exercise to improve your health, we have a program for that. Whether you're working out at home, whether you're working out at a gym, we have our virtual membership program that can help you learn how to exercise on your own with customized exercise programming for your body. So we're super excited about this program. You can check it out by going to matschaumburg.com and clicking on the membership tab. Now today, we are talking about a way to make sure that you can keep exercising, and that is by addressing your muscles and making sure that your muscles are working well. We're talking about one of our specialties here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, and that is muscle activation techniques. And MAT is super powerful for all areas of your body and all skeletal muscles that you have within your body. But one area in particular that is so often overlooked by gym goers and by non-gym goers and just by people in general is the health and function of the muscles of your feet. Okay, your feet are one of the most overlooked areas in your entire body, and we want to talk about your feet today, the bones of your feet, the joints of your feet, the muscles of your feet, and why keeping those muscles strong and working well is so important to how the rest of your body feels and functions.
You know how they say you can't unknow what you know? Well, this was brought to Charlie and I's attention at the end of last year, end of 2018. We were having some family time. When we're with our family, they're always drilling us and asking us questions about things going on in their bodies and their muscles and different stuff, and we do it back to them. In my family, we have a lot of dental people, so we're always asking about our teeth. When you have a specialty, it's hard to not think through that specialty, like think through the lens of that specialty, if that makes sense. So it was interesting because Charlie and I were having a conversation with someone in my family, and we were talking about, they were asking us about some different things we could do for feet and different things that could help with feet. And Charlie and I had made the point, as we got through the conversation, that we said, it's funny because the feet are an area that we just expect are going to work every single day. Get out of bed, they're going to be good. We don't have to do anything about them. But it's funny because we don't think that about our heart. Like we kind of are starting to become aware, like if I want my heart to be healthy, I have to do heart healthy things, like eat my diet so it's appropriate, exercise so it's appropriate. I think slowly, maybe again, I'm looking through my own lens, but I think the population's starting to understand that the muscles in your body needs to be kept healthy. Like exercise promotes the health of your body. It doesn't just stay healthy without doing anything. But it was interesting because in Charlie and I's mind, and any MAT specialist you talk to, well, of course, we have to keep the muscles of the feet healthy. Why would we expect them just to stay healthy without doing anything? But it was interesting because my sister and brother-in-law said back to us like, oh, I never thought about that. I just thought the feet were ready to go all the time. And so it's very interesting. And that's why the feet are so overlooked, because again, it's this area of the body that we really believe are just ready to go all the time. Like there's no maintenance steps to them. There's nothing that can be done to maintenance the feet. And actually, the way that Charlie and I work with the body, and every MAT specialist and all of our colleagues across the nation, it's a huge area of maintenance. And it's a huge area where people feel so much better, stronger, mobile, feeling stable in their feet once we start them on some kind of plan to work on the functionality of the feet. So that is why it is so important that we're talking about this today. And I hope that there are some people out there that have not heard this conversation, because you have to know that you are not just like in this stuck place. There are so many things that we can be doing, or you can be doing, to get your feet on a maintenance plan.
So to start, we want to discuss some stats about the feet. We want to lay out some numbers for you to explain and give some insight just how complex the feet really are. Okay, so first of all, your foot is not just your foot, meaning your foot is comprised of 28 individual bones, and really 30 bones if you count your lower leg bones that help to make up the upper half of your ankle. So if you're including your ankle in this, we're looking at 30 bones. If you're not including your ankle, we're looking at 28 bones just in your one foot alone. Okay, so that's a lot of bones. And if you're talking about both feet, we're talking a whole bunch of bones.
That's 60 bones. And if you think about okay, so if you have hip pain or hip problem or hip function issues, that's 2 bones coming together. Your pelvis and your femur. In the feet, 30. Oh my gosh. Or if you're thinking about the shoulder, which is a little more complex, we're thinking about 1, 2, I'm counting in my head, 3 joints.
3 bones.
3 bones.
Yeah.
So there's 3 only there, and so that's more complex than the hip, but the feet, 10 times that. Holy moly. So these 30 bones make up 55 joints. 55. There are 55 potential areas where joints might not be functioning well. And again, remember, we always assume that these 55 joints are working well. Interesting stuff.
Now, our favorite aspect of the feet is, again, the muscles. And guess how many muscles are in the feet? 50 muscles that have some control either over your ankle or your feet, whether it's your toes, whether it's your midfoot, whether it's your rear foot. Some aspect of your foot and ankle is controlled by 50 muscles. That's between the 2 sides together. That's 100 muscles. That's nearly 20% of your body's skeletal muscles are there to help control your ankles and feet. That's crazy. That's so many muscles. And when was the last time you went to the gym and thought, oh yeah, I'm going to do some foot strengthening exercises today? It doesn't happen often. So we need to discuss this.
And I know you guys have probably heard about arches in the feet. Arches are really cool. They're very mobile, but have to be supported structures. There are 3 different arches in the feet. The first arch, which always gets the gold medal of all the attention, which is your inner longitudinal arch, which is like your arch, the one that's on the inside of your foot, the one we think of. We also have the outer longitudinal arch, which is the arch that lives like on your pinky side toe, but still going from heel to toe the long way. And then we have your transverse arch, which lives between, almost like if we could call the ball of the foot. So we call it like the met heads, but it's like where your toes meet your foot almost. So that would be your transverse arch. So there's 3 arches in the foot, all of which are supposed to be functioning well and supported and moving well.
Now, guess how prevalent foot issues are. 1 in 5 people over the age of 50 was going to report some kind of foot issue, whether it's some kind of pain, some kind of achiness, some kind of stiffness in their feet sometime this year. 1 in 5. That's 20% of the population. That's a huge chunk of people that are experiencing dysfunction in and around their feet.
And I don't know about you, but have you heard of anyone, or maybe you've experienced it yourself, the very common foot issue called plantar fasciitis? And I know I had this for like 8 years, and we did an entire podcast on it, but this starts to be labeled as quote unquote common starting at the age of 14. 14, that's so young. And it becomes very common by the age of 60 and over. So this is so prevalent in the United States today, and in the U.S. alone, every single year, 3 million cases are identified and treated in the US. So many people with plantar fasciitis. Holy moly.
Now, just to put that into perspective, in the US, every year, 1.4 million diagnoses of type 2 diabetes are made. So there's over double the amount of diagnoses and treatments of plantar fasciitis every year in the US as there are type 2 diabetes. And type 2 diabetes is considered a rampant issue among the US population. But plantar fasciitis is over double that. And here's the issue that we see. The issue that we see with so many treatments when it comes to working with the feet is the issue is always considered to be some kind of support-based issue, meaning the feet aren't being supported in one way or another. But the solution to that always is some kind of external support that's added in, whether it's some kind of insole, whether it's some kind of brace, whether it's some kind of orthotic. It's something that's added externally to try to help support the feet, when the argument we want to make is dysfunction is happening internally.
You're absolutely right, Charlie. And, reviewing the stats we just gave you, there are 28 bones, 55 joints, 50 muscles. Our feet, just by design, are created to be mobile structures, mobile things. If they weren't designed to be mobile, they would be a solid piece of bone, almost like your femur. It'd be like maybe like a fin, but all made out of a bone. So it wouldn't be able to move. And this is where the issue arises, because we understand, the people that are doing the traditional treatments of feet and people that go like an MAT kind of route for working with the feet, we know that if there are dysfunctions happening in the feet, mobility issues, meaning your feet don't move very well, stiffness, achiness, those signs and symptoms of things not working well, that something needs to be supported. And again, the problem right now is a lot of the suggested support is coming externally with these inserts or braces or hard plastic thingies that we shove in our shoes or wrap around our ankles and whatnot. And if we go back, we have to remember, hey, wait, these feet are created out of 30 different bones, 55 joints, 50 muscles. They're there to do something. We have all those little articulations so that it can be a mobile structure. And when we're solving a problem by taking away the kind of the fundamental way the foot is designed to be this mobile thing, then I almost wonder, are we creating more dysfunction and just taking away symptoms temporarily or something? I also know that working with the feet, when I was getting treated, at least for fasciitis, a lot of the things never even worked because a lot of them were taking away the mobility that my feet were supposed to have because the mobility wasn't feeling good. So it's just interesting, and it made me, I didn't even think that could be a thing until I got into MAT, where I realized, oh, there could be another way to provide support that's not this external support, these inserts and wraps and plastic braces.
So yeah, Julie, you're right on with that. So the biggest issue that we see with these external supports that are often added to the feet is while they provide stability, they tend to take away mobility. Okay. And one of the big challenges with that is that when one area of the body doesn't move well, other areas of the body have to pick up more motion and have to compensate. And so with that, an ideal solution would be to figure out a way to create stability within the feet while still creating mobility, okay? To be able to have the foot be both stable and mobile. And what we see is that is the exact role that the muscles of the feet play. They allow the foot to be mobile and can make the foot more stable when needed. But so often, the muscles of people's feet are dysfunctional, are not strong enough, and do not function well enough in order to do that. And so that is what we see as a large contributor to all these foot issues that people are experiencing. So we need to talk that people are experiencing.
Yeah, the muscles are really amazing. And I didn't realize how amazing they were until I started studying them myself. And it's pretty cool because you don't think about muscles as making you feel good and helping you with function. Usually we think of muscles as like, oh, the muscles that make us look good or make us look buff. And if I'm not a workout queen then, or king or queen, then why should I be thinking about my muscles? But the muscles play such a crucial role in supporting our skeleton. I mean, our muscles support our skeleton everywhere. But they definitely have to provide all the support and, well, maybe not all the support, but most of the support everywhere there are joints. That's what muscles do. They don't exist unless there's a joint. There's no reason to have a muscle unless there's joints. And in an area of the body that has 55 joints, 55 places where two bones meet, 55 places where the bones have to learn how to manage and control around each other, there has got to be really, really tight and specific muscle control in this area. And the way that we often think about the feet right now is that if I'm having these foot issues, we're going back to these external support. So these muscles of the feet are able to provide the stability we need, the support that we need and often look for, and the mobility, which we often forget about. And just like Charlie had said, when we lose mobility somewhere, for example, the feet, if we're looking for, let's say we add stability to the feet by limiting mobility, like making our feet move less, then oftentimes it will create extra motion somewhere else. We often see knee issues and hip issues and low back issues due to the lack of mobility that now exists in the feet. So when we start looking at the feet in an MAT lens and thinking, hey, what muscles here can we start improving on, or what muscles need to be improved on, then what happens is we start instilling stability with a support and the mobility into the joints of the feet.
So like Julie was saying is, hey, if your feet can't make an arch, if your feet can't flatten, if your toes can't bend, if your toes can't straighten, if your foot can't point up to your knee, your foot point down towards the ground, if your feet can't do all the motions that they're designed to do, either because their function is too low or because of these external stability, external support mechanisms that are put into place, like the braces, like the wraps, like the inserts, like the orthotics, like the special shoes that have a lot of shock absorption, your body's way of compensating is going to be to try to increase motion at other areas of your body. So your knee is going to have to move more. Your hip is going to have to move more. Your low back is going to have to move more. Now, all of a sudden, those areas are going to start to get more stressed. The muscles are going to have more required of them, and the joints are going to start to take on more stress because they're having to move more and they have more force going through them. Okay, so making sure that your feet are mobile is a really big thing to protect the other joints of your bodies. It's also a really big thing to protect the joints of the feet themselves, okay? Here's the thing. Each of those bones is lined with something called hyaline cartilage, all right? Hyaline cartilage is what allows one bone to move on another and it to feel fairly smooth, fairly frictionless, and not be super painful, all right? If you're sitting there thinking, well, every time I move my shoulder, it hurts, okay? Well, what might be happening is that hyaline cartilage may start to be wearing away. And when the hyaline cartilage starts to wear away, that's what we call arthritis, all right? So that's a really big issue. Now, what do you need to do to make sure that that hyaline cartilage stays healthy, that it doesn't start to wear away? One of the things hyaline cartilage must have in order to stay healthy is motion, all right? It has to have motion in order to stay this low friction surface. So if you are adding in a bunch of external support mechanisms to keep your feet from moving, not only is that going to cause other joints in your body to have to move more, cause those muscles to get stressed out, cause those joints to get stressed out, it's also over time going to have the potential of decreasing the health of all the joints of your feet themselves, because those joints need motion in order to remain healthy. It's a must. It's a physiologic must for those joints. So what does this mean? It means we need to have another alternative. We need to look elsewhere in order to create stability for our feet, something that still allows for mobility of the feet, and that is your muscles. Okay, you have 50 muscles on each side, on the right side and on the left side, that can help control the motion and the joints of the ankles and the feet. All right, this is huge. The challenge is, when we go to the gym, we don't ever think about, let's challenge our foot muscles. Let's get our foot muscles stronger. We're thinking about our biceps. We're thinking about our glutes. We're thinking about our abs. What we're not thinking about is our quadratus plantae. We're not thinking about our flexor lucis longus. We're not thinking about all the little muscles that control our toes and control our ankles and control our foot as a whole. And so with that, what ends up happening is our feet become more and more and more dysfunctional over time. So what can we do about this? What are some things that we can do about this? Well, for us here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, when we see clients and we work through their feet with muscle activation techniques, it's honestly one of the most impactful areas of the body that we work on for people are their feet. Because the feet generally get such little attention throughout their daily life and just throughout their life as a whole. They get such little attention, such little specific and focused attention from a strengthening standpoint, that to get the muscles of the feet working better, all of a sudden, back stuff starts feeling better, hip stuff starts feeling better, knee stuff starts feeling better, shoulder and neck stuff starts to feel better. And all the little aches and pains and tweaks and, oh, I'm just getting old kind of things, those can drastically change by getting the muscles of your feet working better and stronger.
So you might be listening to this and thinking, dang, I've never heard any of this stuff before, but it makes sense. So I'm going to go home and take my orthotics out that I've been wearing for 50 years. Or I'm going to go home and take this brace off my foot, because Julie and Charlie said, mobility is good, got to get my muscles stronger. And that's what you're thinking. And you know what? I understand where your brain is going. But remember, we're talking about training your muscles of your feet, training the muscles of your feet and getting them stronger. So think of it like this. The first time you go to the gym and you're going to do bicep curls, the first time ever, you don't walk up to the dumbbell rack and go grab the 50s and just pump them out, right? Why? Number one, you probably couldn't do it, right? I can't even do 50-pound dumbbell curls. And also, tomorrow, the day after you do it, you're not going to be feeling so hot. Your body's going to be very upset with you. You probably won't be able to lift your arms. Your elbows will feel funky. All the tendons in your elbows and shoulders will feel all weird. And why is that? Well, because your biceps weren't used to that. You weren't used to doing anything bicep related, and then you went and did 50-pound dumbbells. I think a good place to start would be maybe 5-pound dumbbells, or maybe 12-pound dumbbells, depending on what you're used to in your daily life. So the goal of that, or the takeaway from that, is start with something you can do. Don't start with something that's going to make you feel crappy tomorrow, make you feel beat up, because that means that you overdid it, and your muscles probably aren't going to get much stronger from that. Now, when we're thinking about the feet, remember, we're still working on foot muscles in the feet. So if you've been wearing supports or external supports or motion limiters in your feet or your arches or your ankles, and you're listening to this podcast thinking, yeah, I want to try the muscle thing. I want to try to get the muscle stronger. Well, remember, for however many years you've been wearing these external supports, these motion limiters, your muscles have been asked to not do their job. And so these muscles are used to not working. So day one is not a great day to go into these, barefoot shoes, minimal shoes, or even walking around barefoot, because your body is going to be the same, will have a very similar response to if you picked up those 50-pound dumbbells. And actually, there'll probably be no improvement at all. You'd probably be in some pain, and then you'd probably be like, yeah, Julie and Charlie don't know what they're talking about. That was a bunch of craziness. I feel the worst. So we want to think about gradually getting into this. So always think about, what can I do? Well, we know that your body can do what it's been doing, which is have the support. So sometimes when clients ask me, well, what can I do to help myself get stronger without having these orthotics or external supports, motion limiters? So if someone can feel decently comfortable walking barefoot, I encourage them to walk barefoot at home, but only for a limited amount of time, meaning 1 minute a day, until you know that 1 minute a day feels good. I don't get sore from it. I don't get achy from it. I don't get problems with it. And I feel fine. Okay, great. Once you prove to yourself that 1 minute is good, let's try 2 minutes a day. So you have to work through a process. And maybe walking barefoot isn't the first step. Maybe the first step for you is like what Charlie was saying, create some foot exercises, or get some from a blog that we'll link and talk about later that we've written, and actually just start exercising your feet. Maybe being on your feet without those supports don't feel good. Every single person is so different. I remember I was in those shoes, wearing ultra pronator flat foot shoes, and I actually could not do the barefoot walking. It just wasn't going to work for me. So I had to begin by doing stuff seated but strengthening. So I couldn't have my body weight on there. So everyone's different. So the goal here, though, is I don't want you listening to this podcast thinking, oh, muscles are the way to go. Let me jump right into it. And then, because remember, we have to be strategic and we have to progress. Going to the last stage of what we want to do with the 50-pound dumbbell curls with your feet is not the best plan to progress your feet. You have to do what your body can do so that it can grow and get stronger to one day be able to do what you cannot do today.
Yeah, so first and foremost, if you're wanting to improve the function of your feet, go find an MAT practitioner in your area. Again, like I said, feet are one of the most impactful areas that Julie and I are able to help clients with as far as how the rest of their body feels and functions. So go to muscleactivation.com, click on the Find a Specialist tab, and find a practitioner in your area that you can go schedule a time to see. The second thing is to start thinking about things that you can do around your house to help strengthen your feet. And as Julie said, one great thing to start doing is to start doing some walking barefoot just around your house. Okay, it doesn't have to be outside. It doesn't have to be on hardwood floors. If you have carpet, you can use carpet. Okay, but just being barefoot. But you have to be really smart about this. Okay, the more dysfunctional your feet are, or the more dysfunctional the rest of your body is, the more stressful it can be for your feet, all right? And so it can actually end up completely backfiring and being a really bad thing if this gets overdone or if it gets introduced too soon. So be smart about this and start by doing way less than you think would be beneficial, because just a little exposure can oftentimes provide tremendous benefit, all right? Now, Julie also brought up this blog post that we have on our website. So I encourage you, we'll link in the show notes. But if you go to our website, we have at least 4 articles on foot exercises that you can do to help strengthen your feet, okay? And these exercises are not like magical exercises, but if you just think about how your foot should be able to move, okay? You should be able to point your foot up. You should be able to point your foot down. You should be able to make an arch with your foot. You should be able to flatten the arch of your foot. You should be able to point your toes up. You should be able to kind of curl your toes, okay? So those 6 different motions, if you just practice doing those motions, you can do them seated. I mean, I've done them on airplanes. I've done them in classrooms. I can do that right now as we're recording this podcast. But if you're just sitting, all right, and you just kind of point your toes up towards your knees and squeeze through the front of your shin, okay, or what's called the anterior tibialis muscle, okay? If you just kind of squeeze through there and lightly and gently squeeze, and then maybe you reverse directions and you think about pointing your toes down and kind of squeeze through your calves, like those would be two good things to do. You can also think about making an arch with the foot and kind of squeezing the muscles on the bottom of your foot to try to make an arch, and then doing the opposite, squeezing the muscles on the outside top part of your foot to try to flatten your arch. And then finally, you can think about trying to curl your toes and just kind of think about almost trying to make a fist with your foot, okay? And then again, doing the opposite, trying to spread all your toes out and just feeling how the muscles of your feet squeeze and how they contract and how your feet move. Just going through that kind of series on a regular basis throughout the day can be very beneficial at just getting the muscles of your feet working better and getting the joints of your feet moving better.
Now, if everything Charlie just said went way over your head, which is totally fine if you're not used to listening to like descriptions of how your body moves, and especially in your feet, make sure you check out our blogs because we do have really nice pictures with descriptions there, and it will be much easier for you to follow along and potentially participate. So here's the thing. If you're experiencing dysfunction in your feet, meaning you can't move them really well, they don't operate very well when you're walking, they don't feel very good when you're running or just doing things around your house or from day-to-day activities, this idea of the muscle system and how it can affect your body is so powerful. And one of the philosophies that I personally hold, and I mean, I think hopefully some other people agree or else I'm just crazy, is that I can have things going on in my body. I can have things that are diagnosed. I can have weird bone growths. I can even have arthritis. But at the end of the day, the first thing that I always want to make sure about is to make sure my muscles are doing their job. Because it's, number one, it's so non-invasive, right? It's like, hey, let's just make sure all the muscles are supporting my joints the way my joints should be supported, even if that joint is arthritic or has been labeled as something by the medical field. But at the end of the day, if the muscles aren't supporting those joints the way they're designed to support the joints via maintenance, that joint is going to feel and function and have motion that is a lot lower quality and a lot more symptomatic than if the muscles were operating really well. So just in my opinion, the way that I view the skeleton and the muscles is I always want to make sure my muscles are operating the best that they could be, and then see how my body's feeling before I make bigger decisions about, different joint issues or different problems that I'm experiencing. So if you agree with me on that, definitely to make sure you find an MAT specialist, because the muscle system can be so profound in how you're able to live your life. And that's the bottom line, is the muscles are in our bodies. Let's keep them strong so you can do the stuff you want.
Now, if you want to learn more about how to use exercise to improve your health or other things to improve your health, we have a couple things that you need to do. First and foremost, subscribe to this podcast, because every single week we're coming out with a brand new episode. So you want to make sure that automatically gets downloaded to your listening platform of choice. The second thing is, if you are local to the Schaumburg area, or if you're willing to travel into the Schaumburg area, purchase a ticket to our Schaumburg Health Summit that's going on May 18th at the Fairfiled Inn and Suites, okay? We have an amazing lineup of speakers that's going to be released over the coming weeks that's going to be discussing health-related topics, cutting edge and new for 2019. And the whole purpose of this Schaumburg Health Summit is to be able to educate people on what's new in healthcare, what's new in fitness, what's new in wellness, and kind of cut through all the nonsense and actually dissect these topics to give you pertinent, useful, actionable items and tips that you can start implementing in your life to improve and maintain your health. So go to www.schaumburghealthsummit.com to learn more and purchase tickets for the event. And while you're online, if you wouldn't mind, head on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and review. It helps other people find this information. If you found this podcast useful, if you found any of our podcasts useful, let us know. It means a world to us when you do. While you're at it, who do you know that needs to hear this podcast? Who do you know that's been struggling with some foot issues? Share this podcast with them so they can learn about the importance that the muscles of their feet play in the overall health and function of their feet and over the rest of their entire body as well. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.